Yeah, so I'm first going to do the introductions. I do want to thank you guys for coming. But then, of course, I know we are recording at the moment, but no matter, I'll be able to fill in the gaps. But in terms of introductions, I would love to give to you guys on it, but I'm going to first do the introductions, how I always started off with everyone, thank you so much for being here, all that sort of thing. And then you guys would be able to give introductions, a little background of what you've done, your position, how long you've been part of the church, and then I'll go along with the questions from there. Sound good?
Yeah, very good.
Great. Hello and welcome to the third installment of the Laudato Si series of the Laudato Si Week 2020. My name is Jonathan Pruitt. I am the Environmental Justice Program Coordinator at Catholic Charities Diocese of Stockton. And I am joined here by two special individuals who really are doing the work of Laudato Si. And they want to introduce some of the special projects that they're trying to present, hopefully in the future for us. I will lead it off with first, Father Michael, please introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Father Michael Agliardo. I'm a Jesuit. Originally, I'm from the New York area, but now I'm a transplant out to California. I now am attached to Santa Clara University, where I serve as a research scholar and teach an occasional course. I'm also the executive director of a nonprofit. Right now, I'm wrapping up actually a 4-year sociological study of Laudato Si, where I went to different countries to look at the impact that Laudato Si has had on different societies and on the church there. So even though I'm a sociologist by academic training, really the core of my life is my vocation as a priest. I do what I do in sociology in order to serve my vocation as a priest, in order to serve the church. But I will tell you this, when Laudato Si came around, it really struck a chord in me because I've always had a very profound respect for, love for God's creation. It's always been a source of inspiration for me. In fact, my first visit to California was to attend as a high school student a summer seminar at Deep Springs College in the Sierras here in California. That was my first visit to see this beautiful state, and it left a very deep impression on me. Even now, when I'm not saying Mass and doing academic sorts of things, I try to get out into God's creation. Running in the hills of Berkeley. If I travel, I try to take out time to see nature wherever I travel. So I scuba dive and I backpack and do all those fun things. So even prior to Laudato Si coming out, I had been looking at how religious groups, and especially how the Catholic Church, gets involved in environmental issues. And it seems to me that the church brings something special to what we call maybe environmentalism. In fact, the church's approach is not just what we would understand as the standard approach to environmentalism, because the church brings people and social justice and faith into environmentalism. So all of those things really round out how we engage nature. If we just engage nature as a series of spectacles, beautiful things, but in and of themselves, but don't connect them up to people or to God, then we're kind of missing something. So when Pope Francis came out with Laudato Si, I said, well, here is something that is sort of a capstone of what the church has been saying about environment for several decades now. So again, this is what I do as a sociologist, as a priest, and I'm very happy to be able to be here and to share with you today. I think we're going to talk about this Catholic climate platform. That's one of the projects that I'm engaged in. But I'll just stop here for now and maybe turn things over.
Great. Thank you so much, Father Michael. And I'll turn it over to Bori.
Hi, yeah, my name is Bori Kozik. I've been working with Father Michael for the past year on the Catholic Climate Action platform that we're going to talk more about in detail soon. But just to introduce myself a little bit, I'm from a Hungarian family, but I grew up here in Berkeley. And from a young age, I've always been passionate about social and environmental issues, and how, like, figuring out how the two are interrelated. I just remember like being in 6th grade and just feeling like I was the only person in my class who was worried about climate change. Just from a very early age, I wanted to kind of save the world. And the more I learned, the more I realized how complex everything is and how that's not the way things work. And of course, like, deepening in my faith too, just recognizing that it's actually part of God's plan that we work together, and no one person can do anything alone. And that's really the point of Laudato Si, is that we are all very integrally interconnected people, of course, with God, and then also non-human parts of God's creation. And yeah, so just a bit of my education, I continued this vein, studying environmental science at UC Berkeley alongside a minor called Global Poverty and Practice. So already there, I was trying to combine two seemingly different fields that don't often always interconnect, but in real life very much do, analyzing poverty and world economic systems, and then the environmental ecological aspects as well. So coming out of that, I just graduated in December. I'm very excited to be part of this project called CathCap, the Catholic Climate Action Platform, because it's a very down-to-earth, real way that I can involve myself and apply all the things that I've learned and been inspired by, but also share that with other people and inspire other people to action, to collective action locally, but thinking, it sounds cliche, but really focusing locally, and then also keeping the perspective global.
Definitely well said. I think that's I actually said that exact same quote just today with someone else, speaking about how, when realistically the way to get things changed is to really look at locally first, and allow, in a local perspective, local organizations, local governments to put real change to build sustainable communities. And then hopefully down that road, other cities start to follow, other governments start to follow that. And then after a while, it starts to become nationally, and then hopefully down the road, it'll start to be globally. But yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. And then our next question, I think, is to really introduce this idea, Father Michael, that you guys have with this carbon credit sort of program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll give you a little background there. This is a project that I developed in collaboration with Dan Misla, who is the director of the Catholic Climate Covenant. That's an organization that works with the U.S. bishops to help Catholics understand what the issues are with regard to climate change. There are actually a lot of things involved in climate change, but one of the causes of that is the CO2 emissions from fossil fuels and so forth. So I guess for a couple of decades now, their carbon emissions. So let's say you took a flight. Delta Airlines actually offers you a way to sort of compensate for the fact that when you take this flight, it's going to put a certain amount of CO2 into the atmosphere. And we know, and again, there are skeptics out there, but in fact, 95% of climate scientists and the ones that I've spoken to are very clear that the climate is changing, and this is partly because of these CO2 emissions. And so if we want to take responsibility for our actions, Delta Airlines says, well, you could make a contribution, and they will take that money and invest it in reforestation. And those little trees will grow, and as they grow, they'll suck that CO2 out of the atmosphere that you put in. All right. So this is a way of offsetting or compensating for the CO2 you put into the atmosphere. Um, the we had this idea that, well, individuals doing things that to offset CO2 might be good, but maybe as groups, as Bori was saying, we could do more when we're united with others. We could do more. So we had this idea that we would create a mechanism by which, say, a parish could sign up and create an account, and then by creating that account, members of the parish, whenever they wanted to do something like that person who took the Delta Airlines flight, if they wanted to do something similar with regard to a flight or something else, then they could make that contribution, but the contribution would stay within that account for that parish. And at the end of the year, the parish could decide what they wanted to do with the money that's accumulated there. But maybe I'll turn things over to Bori and see, if what you'd like to say about this and how people get involved.
Yeah, so there's lots of things to highlight, I think, in this new idea, because on the one hand, it might not seem very new because maybe people have heard of carbon offset auctions when you buy an airplane ticket, or maybe not. But there are actually big differences between that and this. And Father Michael mentioned the fact that it is really, the goal is to accumulate the money within the parish so that people can have decision-making power to really be involved in where that money goes. Because if you put your money, you give your money to Delta Airlines, who knows where that goes, and who knows if that's actually offsetting the emissions that that you are contributing to. So this way, though, the idea with CathCap is twofold. One option is for parishes, or this could be true for Catholic high schools or universities, and hopefully, maybe later on we could expand to outside the church, but we really want to have faith be central in this, and we can talk more about that later. But a parish and a high school can involve members of the community in after accumulating funds in a local project. For example, they can put solar panels on the church, or they can start a community garden. And the goal is that it's not necessarily a one-to-one carbon offset thing the way that some other carbon offset programs claim, but rather really taking the inspiration from Laudato Si with integral ecology, which is essentially looking at ecology with the focus on the dignity of the human person. So combining social and ecological projects creates this ideal way of healing the wounds that we have over time accrued in both society and environment. And so one part is this local dimension where parishes or schools can focus on a project that they actually get involved with. And the other part is that we can connect them with very specific organizations that we trust and know are doing good work around the world, because exactly part of the whole idea of moving towards integral ecology and this ecological social awareness is remembering that we are connected with people around the globe. And so having this duality of both local and global projects and knowing where your money is actually going is what makes this very special, alongside the part which we can go deeper into, which is like putting Laudato Si and our faith at the center.
It's interesting because it reminds me of, and this could be part of the interview, it doesn't have to be, you could let me know if you don't want this part of it or something, but it reminds me of a sort of another program that's happening in California. It's called Community Choice Energy, where it's, I'm sure it's happening in Bay Area. It's already happened in Bay Area, but it's starting to be a thing for, in the Valley. They're starting to where actually Stockton would be the very first organization or very first entity in the Central Valley to be considered community choice. They call it CCA or Community Choice Accolade or something with an A. And that gives you the same sort of idea of how this sort of works, where it's the consumer gets to decide where this energy is coming from. It could be from PG&E, but where is PG&E going to be getting that, that energy from? Is it going to be from solar panels, clean power? Where is it going to be coming from? Because at the end of the day, there are consumers we just don't know. Like PG&E doesn't have to. They don't have to follow the same sort of laws that other clean energy accumulate producers be able to get. I'm trying to think of an example, but for one instance, there are ways where the person, whoever gets the energy, then it goes straight to PG&E, who then creates it into the grid. PG&E, of course, has to be the entity who administrates the energy, and then the consumer gets to decide. Either I want to go to the community choice energy and want to go for clean power, clean energy, or not decide to do it. And realistically, yes, it's going to be an addition to your bill, but after a while, it starts to offset, and you start to actually save money at the end of towards the end of the year and anything like that. Do you guys have that?
That's an amazing program, and actually, as a sociologist, I would say it introduces a kind of interesting twist into capitalism, because it integrates. Capitalism used to be like supply and demand and prices, all right, and efficiency. But this introduces a moral dimension to how you purchase things. That having been said, first of all, I wouldn't want a paid advertisement on my show for some other program. and second of all, it's not exactly the same thing as what we're doing. That's my thought.
No, I mean, if it's a program that's really good, I love to spread the word, especially about it. I mean, they're starting to do it in Stockton, but right now Stockton's doing a lot of environmental justice sort of work. We're doing a lot of work just outside Catholic realm. And so what helped at this time is, now that we're building capacity on okay, I'm here. Sorry about that. It really helps because now that we're out working on it locally in Stockton, we're trying to build capacity on environmental justice work. And that's even just outside of Catholics. And so what really would be nice is really to see this community choice energy come through with this, just so we can build, a voice allow people just to be in a habit to really put in their thoughts of wanting to care for the energy, care for creation, or just care for the environment itself. You don't even have to be Catholic. So it's just tying in those sort of resources that really does help this sort of thing go. And I definitely agree. And I really wanted to go more in depth, Bori, if you or Father Michael wanted to discuss more of this idea of Laudato Si tying into this sort of work.
Father Michael?
Okay. Well, I think as Bori mentioned, and has come up in our conversation, we're not just trying to offset carbon emissions on a technical level. There's an inspiration behind this. And there's a sense of our responsibility, not just as human beings, but as Catholics, as people of faith, to honor and reverence God's creation. So that means that the way we use resources, the way we treat our planet, the way we share the wealth of creation with others is important. So I think one of the things that Bori mentioned was that we're local communities, and as a result, we have our own local concerns, but we're also connected with others. And one of the things that the project that we're advocating or working with does is it allows a group like a high school or a parish or even a whole university community to create an account and accumulate money and then decide what to do with that. And they could use those funds then for something on their plant, on their campus, on their parish grounds, um, that would reverse the carbon emission damages that are caused, like putting up solar panels or improving insulation or doing things that are, cost effective, but at the same time responsible. So they could do that locally, but we also are investing in projects. They can put their money toward a project in another part of the world, where the people there are restoring forests or rebuilding mangroves, doing things that, again, reverse the damage to the atmosphere, but also do more than that. It's not just a one-for-one, put CO2 into the atmosphere, you need to suck it out again, or to balance that in some way. These projects are often sponsored by Catholic or other groups, such as Catholic Relief Services, that take into account the whole community. So by restoring forest, they're making farmlands viable again in those regions, or by restoring mangroves, they are making fishing viable again. So they're also thinking about people's livelihoods and the relationship of human beings to the environment. And so you could accumulate money in your account and invest it in your own conservation efforts, or you could contribute it toward a partner across the globe. And it's interesting that money, that we invest in other places goes very, very far. If you invested just $500 in some community in another country, it could have a real impact. And especially if a number of parishes pool their money, you can make a real difference. And at the same time, like I say, it helps us to rebuild the greenery of our planet.
Can I add to that? Yeah, so just responding to, I guess, the centrality of Laudato Si and all of this, I think of our project as going kind of in two directions. One is for people who are already inspired by Laudato Si and already understand and want to do their part. This is a very concrete step that they can do to take action. But then there are also a lot of people who may not have heard about Laudato Si, who may not have quite grasped the complexity, because in this encyclical letter, Pope Francis doesn't just say, let's all care for creation, but he actually very deeply analyzes both critically the state of our world, which has so many difficulties. He explains why we got to the place that we're in right now. And then he also offers creativity. He offers how we can, how we really find inspiration in our faith, and then also what practical things we can do to keep that inspiration going. And one of the main things that he calls for is ecological education. And so this is the other dimension of our project that I see, where people who might see this as this project as a very good idea would get involved and then learn about Laudato Si and deepen their faith in that way. So it's like everyone, wherever they are in this picture, has something to learn. And that is why we're really focusing on making a lot of resources available now already, but also later down the line, once more and more institutions get on board, we can really create a shared kind of collaborative space for creating resources that educate and inspire at the same time, because all of these topics of ecological and social problems are very relevant and will continue to be relevant. So there's never going to be enough education that we can do, especially, looking at younger generations are already very involved. So you have education at every age, and people want to be involved at every age, but sometimes they don't have the resources to look into how they can think about things and then how they can act as well. And so we want to combine these two within the context of parishes and schools.
I wonder if it wouldn't make sense for me to share my screen and call up the website.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And then because Bori is talking about the resources there, but that sounds like, so let me just, okay, you have disabled screen sharing. So I cannot call up my screen. Can you?
You should now.
Okay, there we are. Let's see. Okay, whiteboard, Zoom. Okay. All right. Now, are you able to see my screen now? Okay. So this is the website that we've created. Though actually, within the next couple of days, it may undergo an overhaul. But you could see here that we do have a website. Mentions our sponsors, the Catholic Climate Covenant, the Association of U.S. Catholic Priests. And in the About section here, there are resources for learning about Laudato Si, about carbon offsets, about our partners, and so forth. And these frequently asked questions, they actually help to expand the perspective of what this is all about. So you can find out more information about this program at the website. It's called cathcap.org, or the Catholic Climate Action Platform. And again, it's not just about the technical side, but it's about expanding your theological imagination for understanding the connection. Let me just turn that over then. Maybe Bori, would you like to say a word about how can people get involved in this or find out more?
Yeah, so we are definitely, as everything, in the process of
actually, Jonathan, do you want to ask her that question?
It looked like it was the same question he was going to answer.
Yeah, I saw you smiling. So
no, it's all good, because I know because this is it does say that we have 10 minutes before it closes. But what I wanted to say was, yes, how can people get involved in this sort of work and really stay on top of it so they can get updates and also be a part of it?
Yeah, so there's a lot to think about now that we have this other crisis intertwined with the global ecological and social crisis. And of course, I say intertwined very deliberately because it is very connected in terms of like partly the reason that we have COVID, and then also COVID exacerbates already the inequalities that have been present and have really, and that's one of the main aspects of Laudato Si too, bringing to people's attention and our program as well, like our privileges and our responsibility. So COVID definitely puts that in our face. So that being said, we know that maybe right now is not the ideal time for a lot of communities, because we can't even like come together to say mass sometimes, or to have mass. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. We can already start conversations. Like yesterday, I participated at my parish in a Laudato Si discussion, and definitely technology helps with that. But just kind of thinking ahead, people can get involved already in maybe if you in your parish would be interested in inspiring your parish to do this, or at your school, like check out the website. Send us an email. You have our contact info on the website, support@cathcap.org. And we can start to get the conversation rolling, because we really are in the pilot phase. And so we're really excited to get people on board to see how this can really work, because we have this vision and now we are ready to share it with other people. So yeah, definitely, I guess just two main things. First, just check out our website, explore it. In a few days, it's going to be a lot, even more complete. And then have conversations with people around you about how and whether this would be something that you guys want to be involved in.
And maybe I could just emphasize too, we are in, as Boris said, the piloting phase of this. So we're actually for the fall, we're looking for about 20 parishes, a certain number of high schools, and we have some university partners. We could probably benefit from a few more universities who might be interested in piloting this project with us, especially if this dovetails with things that you're already doing. And if you'd like to explore the possibility of piloting this project, because it's really not out there for the general public yet, if you'd like to explore that possibility, just get in touch by, again, that email address is support@cathcap.org. You could find it on the website, take a look there. And then what we'd like to do is talk with people over the course of the summer, and then come the fall, come September, which is a time that's sometimes called the season of creation. Then we would like to sort of see whether or not we could get this program to work in your parish or your high school, or maybe even your university. But just get in touch with us at support@cathcap.org, and we'll talk about how to move forward on that.
I'm trying to think. We got 6 minutes. What is something that we can finalize with the 6 minutes? Let's see. Do you guys have like a story that we could be able to talk about like in 4 minutes? Final words or anything is something that people can connect with, Catholics or just regular people.
Okay. Well, maybe the fact that I think there's something you already mentioned, that that other project you were talking about made me think of this. So, all right, let me start over. One thought also to keep in mind is that this project, if we're able to develop it and make it successful within the Catholic community, we could share this platform with other groups. So maybe other religious groups or even secular environmental groups might find this way of working together and pooling your resources so that you have something to contribute toward an environmentally sustainable project that everybody gets involved in. They might find that attractive too. So this thing that we are developing within the Catholic community can then benefit other communities and even the larger secular environmental community.
Rory, do you have any last things?
Yeah. A privilege and a gift, but to spend time in Colombia with small farmers, mostly producing coffee, but also just other fruits and vegetables to sell at the local markets, and just learning a lot from Latin America, and like from being there, it really made me very inspired to bring a lot of perspective from other places in the world back here, and then also just to see, like, it's not just about us helping people far away, but rather what Father Michael said is true, that a lot of the money from the organization that I was with was actually coming from European funds. So there is a way in which, not to repeat the tendencies of a colonial mindset, but rather to make use of our privileges. That money can go a long way, and I saw the fruits of that when I was in Colombia. And yeah, it was just a wonderful insight into both how different we are and how diversity enriches us, but then also how we really share a humanity fundamentally, and share the fact that we are all creation. We're all created by God, and we're all brothers and sisters, like St. Francis always says.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's on my side, all my questions. I do appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your days to really deliver this message, but also deliver this opportunity that hopefully down the road, it becomes a good opportunity. Like something that we would be able to utilize, that it'll become an everyday sort of thing. And it'll be a thing that, people would be able to start to see the fruits that we all do, be able to build off of, what, once money's dollars that start to put in, that we'll also start to see the green on the other side. I know that's a bad pun, but it reminds me of, nature. So with that, I want to end it with thank you so much for being here. And we will always, Catholic Charities, we will definitely share the word, share it out. And we hope to talk to you guys soon. And hope you guys have a best rest of your day and stay healthy out there.
Thank you.
Do you usually end with a prayer?
We can. We actually have a minute and 30 seconds.
Perfect.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end.
Amen. And God bless you both.
Amen. Thank you so much, Father. And you guys have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.